My 22F mother, 61F, keeps hijacking my pregnancy. How can I get her to stop?
I'm 34 weeks, 8 months, pregnant.
Since finding out about my baby back in October, my mother has hijacked and pressured me every step of the way. When we found out, my husband and I wanted to wait until we were 12 weeks to announce.
I had the cutest Christmas announcement planned and was super excited.
Well, she blabbed to a couple people and threatened to spill to more, so to beat her to the punch we announced at roughly 7 weeks. Turn around, and my husband and I decided to have an intimate gender reveal and record our reaction to send to family first before posting to make it fair, since his family lives a few hours away. The whole day she kept trying to get us to just tell her.
She also was super insistent that baby was a boy since she never had a boy. She's a girl, by the way. We posted the video and she called her side of the family, telling them before they could see the video from us. Most recently, I'm talking last night, she made a comment on a schoolmate of mine's maternity photos, revealing the name we picked publicly.
We've only told close family and our doctors thus far. There's so many small things in between, like buying as many baby clothes as possible even after her dad and I told her to stop, since we haven't even shopped yet.
Making little comments comparing my daughter and pregnancy to her, including mentioning her traumatic birth at least once a week. I'm getting so exhausted setting boundaries and explaining to this grown woman why what she did is wrong. I know that she's excited, but so am I, just once I want to make an announcement myself and on my time.
How can I make her understand? Is it even worth trying anymore?
Edit. Thank you everyone for being so blunt. I had her on an info diet for a few months. We talked and for a while things changed and I really thought this time would be different. It was not. You're all correct, and I relaxed my boundaries. This is something that I will work on. My mother is going back on an information diet. I will restate our boundaries about the birth and bringing baby home. I will make sure my husband is with me and that we make it clear that we are holding firm this time.
She already is aware that my husband is the only person allowed in the room and that baby girl's arrival is going to be our news. This is something that she has agreed to, but I'll make sure to let her know that there will be consequences, including limiting access to baby as much as possible.
I regret letting myself be walked over to this point, and realize how much I just reinforced that if she pushes I'll crumble. Edit 2. I live with my mother. I've partially explained the situation in a comment, but it's not as simple as just moving out. It takes time and money, 2 things we are working on. I also can't kick her out, this is her house. I still have to be respectful since she's been kind enough to let us stay. For the time being, the best I can do is put her back on the info diet and install the lock my husband is picking up when we get paid.
Once again, I will reiterate that she will have as limited contact with my daughter as she can possibly have if she continues to disregard my boundaries and requests.
She'll significant other will not be in the delivery room. My husband and hospital staff will know this. It has already been agreed on.
She also knows that we are to be the first ones to announce that she's been born. Yes, there will be consequences for breaking that agreement.
I have learned my lesson.
Stop telling her things. Sounds like you have put up boundaries but are not enforcing them with consequences? Have you been very specific with her on the things she can help with and the things she needs to stop doing? Explaining that this is your pregnancy and you need to experience it without her constant interventions? If so, then you need to limit contact until she starts to understand that you will no longer tolerate it.
If it's this bad with the pregnancy, it will be 10x once the baby gets here. You need to draw the line now. You're letting her hijack your pregnancy. She's shown you once that she wanted to be the one making the announcements, and that should have been the last time. There's still time to get everything under control. Your control.
Stop telling her anything.
Let her spend her money on clothes that you'll just donate.
Don't tell her when you go into labor, or when the baby is born. If she finds out, refuse to let her in the room. Talk to the nurses, they'll take care of it. When you get home, put a big sign on the front door asking for privacy while you rest and bond. Your partner needs to be the bouncer. If you want her to still be a part of everything, then be prepared to continue with her behavior.
I saw you said you live with her. You need to move out. Like 8 months ago.
And it'll be impossible for her to not know you're in labor. So make sure you tell the hospital you don't want anyone but your partner to visit.
Once you get your new place, info diet, hard boundaries with appropriate consequences, and don't let up. Your mother needs to know her position. Info diet. Also, stop including her, it's her own fault. I mean, how many times is she going to reveal things before you wise up and just stop telling her? It's not rocket science.
Why does my sister, F39, tell me, M39, to stay away from her husband and children?
I've never had a close relationship with my twin sister, but I always felt I could count on her. I moved away to live abroad, but I've been putting a lot of effort to stay in touch with her and see her and her family usually twice a year. Our relationship has been getting worse over the years. I felt that I was being used because she would only contact me when she needed something and she wouldn't help and support me when I needed it. I only asked for this once after a big breakup. 2 years ago she tried forcing our dad into selling his apartment so she could leave her husband. It didn't happen and she tried to hide it from me. When I confronted her about it, she was avoidant and didn't want to talk about it at all.
After that, she was very cold to me when I tried calling her. She would literally talk to me on the phone by giving me one-word answers. And then a week after that conversation she calls me, in a happy mood and tone, and tells me she wants to visit me so she can go see a doctor close to where I live.
I agreed to it because it was about her health, but I was angry about how she treated me. When she visited, I took the opportunity to talk to her in person and pointed out a few different things that I didn't like about our relationship. She was very defensive and angry and didn't address any of the things that I listed, only contacting me when she needs something, not supporting me when I needed her, forcing Dad to sell his apartment and hiding it from me, etc. From then I would contact her once in a while and try talking to her again, raising the same issues, but she would completely deflect and ignore my issues and concerns.
When I visited my family last time and went to see her, she physically ignored me in front of her husband and kids. Things dramatically worsened last week when I called her to talk about our dad who had to have an emergency surgery. She was furious at me and told me to stay away from her husband and children and that if she dies, her wish is not to come to her funeral. All of this has been heartbreaking for me. I feel like I'm being abandoned by the person I thought I was the closest to. I've thought about what I said to her many times and cannot understand why she is reacting this way. This is the first time I've stood up to her and asked for more from our relationship, and it seems she doesn't want to put in any effort and is willing to completely cut me off from her life instead of having a constructive conversation.
Your sister basically told you, "You are dead to me.
Avoid all contact like she wants."
I know it might be tough, but it's not like you had a real relationship with her anyways. I feel like I'm being abandoned by the person I thought I was the closest to. I've never had a close relationship with my twin sister.
These 2 lines above, and literally every single example you've given in your post about you and your sister's relationship, makes me wonder how you have ever thought you had even a vaguely close relationship. It's pretty clear she doesn't want you in her life at all, and I don't know how you can't see this, again, from literally the examples you've given in your post. For some reason you just ain't seeing it, and I don't know what anyone else can do to make you see it. Your view of the relationship is so wildly out of sync with your sister's.
You need to stop trying to force this.
Maybe she's crazy, maybe she has reasons. But she clearly doesn't have any bond with you. Don't confront her. Don't respond to her calls. Just let it all go.
I've never had a close relationship with my twin sister.
All of this has been heartbreaking for me.
I feel like I'm being abandoned by the person I thought I was the closest to. Bro, no. Honestly, I think it's pretty clear your sister doesn't want a relationship with you, so stop trying to have one. Only talk to her if you need to discuss your father, but otherwise don't make contact. I think you also need to have a conversation with your dad once he is better about how he wants to handle his health going forwards. Who does he want to be his main contact and next of kin?
With your sister, if you need to communicate with her, text her first name. Dad needs X. Can you please call me or let me know when is convenient to call to discuss it? If I don't hear from you by Y time, I'll go ahead and take Z decision.
2 years ago she tried forcing our dad into selling his apartment so she could leave her husband. Is that the same husband she's still with? If she recently, due to the recent discussions about your dad's health, found out that you knew about this plan, that may be why she wants to keep you away from her family. She doesn't want you to potentially spill the beans that she was thinking about leaving.
I, 29 female, crushed my 28 male husband's feelings. What do I do? My 29 female husband, 28 male, decided to try out stand-up comedy at an open mic night.
I was so excited because he's hilarious. I asked him if he wanted to practice with me, but he said no. He wanted it to be a surprise. So I finally got to watch him perform the other night.
His delivery was great, he's got good stage presence, and just getting up there at all takes a lot of courage. But his material, it was one extended dick joke. Some members of the audience loved it. They were in the minority. Most of the audience looked uncomfortable and slightly appalled. After his performance, as we were walking home, he asked me, "Did you like it?"
And I said I didn't like his material because it was basically one big dick joke. I then said that he had great stage presence and I think this could be the start of something awesome if he worked on his material. He got upset and said that I was a buzzkill. He said that everyone was laughing besides me, and I pointed out that they weren't, not even the majority of the crowd was. He's really upset with me. He says he was really nervous about doing it and was just proud of having done it, but I made him feel ashamed. He's unhappy now and says there's nothing I can do to fix it. I told him that I was sorry for being too critical.
I've been performing since I was 5, and my mom never gave me praise, only constructive criticism. So I grew up thinking that caring about someone meant telling them how they could improve.
I should have told him how proud I was first before I told him what I didn't like. He says I've ruined his debut performance, and nothing will change that.
Is there anything I can do?
I told him I would work on being less critical, but he says it doesn't fix anything that already happened.
Do I just have to accept he's going to be mad at me for the next however long?
Here's some constructive criticism for you.
Don't lead with what he did wrong and then follow it up with what he did well.
He's gonna hate doing stand-up if he can't handle bombing sets. That aside, your delivery needs work.
Can we hear the joke?
For what it's worth, I get where you're coming from. It just hits people different.
If I were you, I'd be real with him. Tell him you're not really used to giving feedback in other ways and you understand that hurt his feelings and you're sorry for that.
There were some things you liked about the performance and you wish you'd led with that.
But you also want to be honest with him and tell him what you really thought because that's a sign of love to you. Okay. The question you need to ask is, why did you lead with a critique when so much went right?
I'm trying to imagine a world where I would lead with, "That material sucked," on the first time my partner did something like this. And I can't.
Don't get me wrong. If they asked for critique, I'm full of it.
But you might want to consider that you've got some communication habits that you could improve.
So how to proceed?
Be vulnerable. Describe how you realize that you have some work to do. That you gave some feedback and realize it was out of place.
Wonder why you act that way and what might you do to improve.
Ask for his help. The most intimate thing you can do is be vulnerable. Good luck. 4-leaf clover.
So you gave him constructive criticism when all he wanted was to be reassured after doing something outside his comfort zone?
Wow, the apple really does fall quite close to the tree.
Tell him that your past drove you to say those things and that you are sorry. As you well know, local comedy clubs usually give classes. Buy them for him and tell him you love him. AL significant other, you need to check your response whenever he asks for your opinion.
Do you think this is the first time you have provided him with constructive criticism?
Really? My girlfriend, 27F, is upset about how much I, 26M, am making now. Some context. I had a really good job for a few years in the past but was recently laid off. I grabbed the first job I could find, which is part-time, and have continued my job search. Recently my girlfriend wanted to upgrade to a bigger and expensive apartment. I told her that I wouldn't qualify with my current earnings. She went ahead alone and pretty much started the entire process. She came back and told me that I needed to send in income verification. I told her that I wouldn't be able to meet the qualifications, which was 2.5 times the rent. She then got all pissy at me saying I need to work harder and how I'm a disappointment. What made me upset was when we first moved in together, I was the one making the good money and provided for us both. I qualified for our apartment alone, paid the rent, bills, groceries, etc. But now that I'm in a rut and am looking for employment again, she sees me as a disappointment. Honestly, I don't know how to really move forward with this. I feel like I have a completely different perspective on her now that I didn't have before. I am seriously questioning this relationship now. Have you dealt with something similar?
I think someone actually calling me a disappointment, that's relationship ending stuff.
You are not sitting home all day playing games, you are working and looking for a better job. The way that she has been treating you is a reason to break up.
She called you a disappointment. People show you who they are when things aren't going their way.
It's easy to be nice to the person providing everything for you. What also amazes me about this is she realizes where you both are currently, and wants to upgrade and live beyond your means.
This is an extremely unwise move, and I wouldn't want to be with someone making these kind of decisions. Red flag. She's a user. She's not willing to support you when you supported her. I'd tell her to continue on her own, considering she called you a disappointment. It's good to see how people are in the rough times and the good times. She was nice during the good times, but awful during the bad times. That's not good relationship material.
A good partner would say, "I'll work more," or "I'll get a job," until your situation improves instead of simply blaming you for ruining their lifestyle expectations.